Hi guys, Freddy here, back with it's going to be a modern RPG, because the winner of the poll this week was Cyberpunk Red, the brand new Untitled Games version of the Cyberpunk role-playing game. Now, I've covered Cyberpunk 2020 before, I've covered Cyberpunk version 3 before, but this is the brand new one, basically coinciding with the release of Cyberpunk 2077, the video game. And this kind of sets up to bridge the gap. Now, I'd kind of like to make it clear that this is not a review. There's been a few comments in the comment sections of videos down below there, which people think that I'm doing a review and they don't think it's fair that I haven't read the entire book and that I haven't played the game. Well, I'm afraid I don't play all the games. What these videos are is just a glimpse into some of the games in my collection and some thoughts about it. So if you're looking for a full review, something with a score at the end, then I'm afraid you'll need to go elsewhere. If you're looking to see a fat Scottish guy ramble about a role-playing game that he's having a look through, you're in the right place. So, this is Cyberpunk Red by Untitled Games, the 2020 release of the Cyberpunk role-playing game. Which seems kind of right, given that the last big release was Cyberpunk 2020, which came out in 1990, some 30 years ago. So the last version was set in 2020, and the next edition comes out in 2020. Of course, that is ignoring the fact that Cyberpunk version 3 came out, as most of us do. But with the history now, Cyberpunk version 3 and Cyberpunk Red are both sequels to Cyberpunk 2020. In Cyberpunk 2020, the meta game, or however you want to describe it, had the Fourth Corporate Wars, and both Cyberpunk version 3 and Cyberpunk Red define what happened after those wars from different points of view. Let's have a look at the back cover. So, Cyberpunk Red. Welcome to the time of the Red, Choomba. The Megacorporations spent decades wrecking everything, and in the aftermath of their last war, everyone has to fend for themselves. But that's just fine, you can handle it. After all, in a world of vicious booster gangs, rampaging cyborgs, corporate assassins, and nihilistic doomsday cults, there's only one rule. Always take it to the edge. Take the big risks, get the big rewards, be the action, start the rebellion, light the fire. Never drive slow when you can blaze a trail. You've hooked your Militech pistol to the interface in your brain, upgraded your cybernetic fist with carbo-glas blades, and installed cybereyes that can pierce through the red haze like morning fog. There's a world full of opportunities out there, just waiting for the right Edgerunner, and maybe that's you. Cyberpunk Red is the latest edition of the classic tabletop role-playing game of the dark future and encompasses everything you need to explore the post-war world of the time of the Red, including a dense deep dive into the history and geography of Night City and the greater cyberpunk world, and plenty of the lore about the time of the Red. 10 unique roles for you to play: charismatic rocker boys, lethal solos, quick hacking netrunners, inventive techs, life-saving and taking med techs, hard-hitting medias, duty-bound lawmen, scheming execs, clever fixers, and range-riding nomads. A huge collection of useful tools, powerful weapons, protective armor, and the gleaming cyberware to help you rule the street. 3 screen sheet adventures to show you what Cyberpunk is all about. Pre-generated opponents, perfect for populating the combat zones and the corporate compounds, plus encounters that use them to bring the city to life. Now, this is Cyberpunk Red, and there's a few things which must be noted. First of all, it's hooked into the Cyberpunk 2077 game. So we've got CD Projekt Red, the creators of that computer game, credited on the cover. Because Untitled Game has actually transferred the licenses for Cyberpunk over to them. So where it originally was, the computer game was the licensed version of the tabletop role-playing game, now the tabletop role-playing game is the licensed version of the computer game, because the computer game company owns the licenses. It seems a little odd, and I have to admit, although I've not seen what the terms of the contract are, I'd be a little concerned that depending on the success of the computer game, obviously it's had its problems on release, whether that could be the end for the role-playing game, because nobody will want a sequel, the license will dwindle. but perhaps there's terms in it that it will naturally revert to our Telltale games if CD Projekt Red don't use it. I don't know the terms of that deal. It just rings alarm bells for me that we might lose a role-playing franchise to just have a one-off computer game. Obviously, the role-playing game itself is Cyberpunk Red, which I think hooks into the name of CD Projekt Red. But in the game world, it's all about the leftovers from the nuclear battles of the Fourth Corporate Wars. They have turned the skies red, apparently. Although you'll not really be able to tell that from much of the artwork, except a rather nice picture on the inside cover. The skies apparently turned red from fallout, and while that dust and dirt is in the atmosphere turning the skies red, it's referred to as the time of the red, and that's when this game's set. By the time of the computer game, that's settled down. So, we have some very nice artwork in here. It all looks very similar to concept work for the computer game, and I'm guessing that's where a lot of it comes from. So we go in, got a nice credits page, crediting that, Cyberpunk is a registered trademark of CD Projekt Red. We go in with a word from the management, Mike Pondsmith, explaining what's happened, the meta plot of Cyberpunk throughout, and I have to admit, having played the computer game but not really been into the meta plot before, everything that was going on in the background of Cyberpunk, the larger storyline, the Cyberpunk Red seems heavily based on the computer game, but it could be that the computer game is heavily based on that plot. Because, for example, Never Fade Away, 32 years ago in 2013. And this is a cutscene from the computer game. I recognise this. It is a story of Johnny Silverhand losing his girlfriend, although I won't reveal what happens to her, because that is a subplot of the game, and possibly you might play it. So we've got an introductory story introducing some of the major players in the computer game. Johnny Silverhand, Rogue, and so on and so forth. Then we've got a view from the edge. Now, I really like the way this is laid out, because this is skimming over the details of the world. But we've got, want to know about cyberware, skip to page 107. Want to know about Neocorps, skip to page 264. And from a physical book, I think this is as close you can get to hypertext. This is almost like web pages, where it's telling you where to skip on. Now, obviously, books have always had indexes and contents pages, but I really like the way this is laid out, because it gives you the brief bit of history on the subject, and then if you want the deep dive, you can go to the particular sections to find out more. I'm very impressed. The layout is brilliant, and it does seem very cyberpunk. You know, multimedia content, almost. Obviously, we're not getting video in a book. A tabletop RPG primer, because I think, to a degree, they are leaning on there's going to be lots of people coming to the tabletop game from the computer game. So, we've got a section here, do I have to dress up? How do I GM? Some very basic concepts of role-playing and what people will be into. Again, very nice artwork, although it is a little rare. There's not that much artwork in the book, especially as we go on. Got a page set up like a web page here. So, news stories and links to other stories, adverts, all within the world. Very nicely presented. I think this style of advert and this style of content to get you into the world works a lot better than the Shadowrun stuff where they had full-page adverts within the world. If you remember me doing the review of the London sourcebook, it had some terrible cosplay orcs and elves posing for adverts. Oh, going through various sections, so introducing the different character classes or character roles and the role abilities, and then we've got full pages devoted to them. And as I've talked about a lot in the past, I really like templates like this, where you can read up on your character, we've got the roles, special abilities, and telling us exactly where to go for more information. So we've got rocker boys, we've got solos, we've got netrunners, techs, medtechs, medias, execs, lawmen, fixers, nomads, and then we've got the path through life, the methods of generating characters. So you've got street rats, where you're just using a template. Edgerunners, so it's a fast and dirty system where you can create a kind of more complex character, but based on a quick system. And then you've got complete packages where you calculate everything out. So creating a street rat or Edgerunner character, and it goes through the flow. Creating a complete package character, and it goes through the flow of that. We've got Tales from the Street, so creating your life path, creating the history of your character, where you can choose one or roll randomly. You know, where's your character from? North America, Sub-Saharan Africa, what languages they might know. Their personality, their dress and personal style. Motivations and relationships, what things you value most, your original family background. Just really nice stuff, not only for players to go through and choose, but if you're creating a quick character, if you're going for one of the templates just to get into play, just rolling some d10 and you're coming up with your character background. Obviously, you might decide to change that as you go through, but this is a really good start. I am hugely impressed with the way they've got people into role-playing with this. So, role-based life paths. So you've got specific ones for each kind of role you are. Netrunner backgrounds. Techs. Let's flick through these quickly. Medtechs. Execs. Medias. Lawmen. Fixers. Nomads. Fitted for the future. The parts of the character. And again, a nice full advert here. So we go through the mental group, your attributes, so your intelligence, willpower, cool, empathy, combat group, technique and reflexes, fortune group, luck, physical group, body, dexterity, movement. Shows you the stat block and talks you through them. 3 ways to generate stats. Here's your template options, roll by roll, for rocker boys, the different classes here. Method 3, complete package calculated. All the skills, so it's got a lot of skills. I think it's around 70 in the game. Some of them are very useful, some of them are overly specific. Your method 1 for generating your skills. Method 2, fast and dirty skills. Complete package. So basically 3 generation systems repeated through. Different ranged weapons, but just very basic types here. Exotic weapons. You've got a battle glove or a microwaver. Special ammunition. Different types of armor. Your outfit. So, your typical outfit might include inflatable bed and sleep bag, personal agent, a micro-sized communication system and computer that fits in your pocket, a cyber deck, a tech tool, easily portable food, personal effects. Got various gear here. Bag lady chic up to high fashion. And that's very much what Cyberpunk's always been about, the fashion. Putting the cyber into the punk. So, here we've got cyber psychosis, explaining how that's dealt with. Style over function. The Psycho Squad. And then we've got cyberware itself, broken down into various types. So, you've got neural wear, your cyber optics, your cyber audio, cyber limbs. Again, I'll skip through fairly quickly, because this is a very beefy book. Running out of cash, join the military, your character sheet. The Fall of the Towers, so another story. Getting it done, the basics of resolution. So, the rules. And they're very nicely laid out. With many games, you've got to go right down into details, but we've got big blocks here telling you quickly, at a glance, how things are worked out. Obviously, this is the most simple form. As soon as you start getting involved in lots of the other skills and things, the system becomes a lot more complex, and to a certain degree does show its age. And lots of skills, role abilities. So the special abilities depending on what role you've chosen. Lots of rules here. You know, going through the various abilities. Friday Night Firefight. Going right back to the original Cyberpunk 2013. Which had details of, or the combat system was in its own booklet, Friday Night Firefight. So combat and how to work that out, how to do resolution, melee combat. Critical injuries. Just so much in here. This is a very heavy book. Net running, so all your hacking into things and how all that works. Now, it does look to be very nicely done, as Cyberpunk 2020 really did take a step away from just fighting your way through a network of modules and more into being able to take an active part. What else we got here? Active defenses. Lots and lots on net running. Trauma teams. You know, how to handle damage. So you've got your wound states. How you handle critical injuries. You could have lost an eye. You could have a cracked skull or a damaged ear. Going to the hospital. Just all the details of damage and how to heal up. Welcome to the dark future. So, we've got a more detailed version of the history of the world, 1990 to 1993, going through the world stock market crash of 94, the collapse of the United States, the alternate history which makes up Cyberpunk, the Third Corporate War, 2020, the Carbon Plague Incident, end of the Fourth Court War in 2025, the Broken World of 2020, Unified Europa, Asia Ascendant. So, the Japanese corporations, obviously in a cyberpunk background, are way more influential than they turned out to be in the real 2020. The Succession Wars, just all the background stories, all the background information where we can find out, or it's walking you through everything that happened in background adventures and big events. The time of the Red. So, what the world is like now. The fragmented America. The current president is Elizabeth Kress, a hard-nosed ex-military officer. The world beyond. So, detailing roughly what the world is like. The High Rider Confederation. The New Corps survive. The major corporate players, so Arasaka, Biotechia. Continental Brands, Danger Girl, Militech, Petrochem, just the large corporations who will likely be hiring your Edgerunners to go on missions. Welcome to Night City, the setting of most of Cyberpunk, a new city built within America. The mob moves in, the fall of Night City. Just lots and lots of history and lots of world building. It's really nicely done. Welcome to Night City. The layout of the city. MaxTac. Once part of the Night City Police Department, MaxTac is a fully independent organization used for taking down cyber psychos, basically. The power players of Night City. So lots of characters. Detailing out Father Kevin, solo. To no one's surprise, Father Kevin of the Holy Angels Church was a solo in his younger days. The primetime players. key places around Night City. Now, this is one of the flaws of it, because there are places within this which are labelled, which are obvious things from the computer game. For example, it locates the camp of one of the nomad tribes that you encounter, even though this is about 20 years before. The Alacado camp, a large multicultural encampment at the edge of the city. Well, I would have thought that it's a camp, it's made of tents. Really, is it going to last 20 years? Are people still going to be living in the same tents 20 years later? We've got the law, detailing what the legality is. Ground transport and vehicles. Clothes in this dark future. Different food types, just detailing everything. The new street economy. The nomads, food and drugs. Different weapons. Now again, this is one of the problems with this game. What I loved about Cyberpunk 2020 was the fact that you chose things from a book. You went into the catalogs, basically, the Chromebooks, and you chose stuff. So I want my character to use a big revolver, which fires shotgun shells. Well, I don't want that. I want them to be using a mini Gatling gun, which fires hundreds of bullets. They're tiny and they do a little damage, but that's the call that I pull out and 40 bullets fire out almost instantaneously. But you chose what your character was like, and things are a lot more vague here. The weapons are larger brushes. There's no images of the weapons. Couldn't they have just gone back to the old artwork and brought some of these things forward? Now, we don't really have cars. You know, I want my character to drive a sporty car. Well, mine's a nomad, so he drives a big pickup truck. And while the game goes into these descriptions, there's no images, so you don't really get an idea of, well, I'm driving a vehicle which can carry some cargo, but is it aerodynamic? Is it got bull bars? And that does leave it up to the character and the GM, the players, to build their world unique to them. But again, that's a lot of time, which these days, the way I play, I much prefer it to be easy for me just to point at a picture and go, that's what it is. Okay, we've got running Cyberpunk, so how to run a game. We're getting towards the end here because we're up to page 400. Beat charts, scripting the game. A nice picture of a motorcycle there. A vanilla parallax, apparently. So we talk through the style of the games, how to basically hit beats. So within your story, you want to have them doing things so the story keeps on moving. Got some ideas here, you know, retreat, revealed weakness, revelation. All the sort of story beats you can build in. Lots of good advice in here. Earning improvement points. Mooks and grunts. So we've got sort of built up templates here. But again, some artwork. Although this is a road ganger, I'd appreciate a picture of what he looks like. A security operative. It can't be that hard to find a picture of a guy in a standard uniform. Now, it would be nice to have these illustrated a bit more. What does a cyber psycho look like? I know, because I've seen them in the game, and I've seen a lot of Cyberpunk stuff over the years. But somebody coming new to this, it'd be far better to have these illustrated. Got various encounters. We've got the screen sheets, which are basically small setup adventures, or adventure setups for the players, with some ideas for the games master and the player information. Hello, cutie. The cutest pistol on the market. So adorable they'll bleed pink, from Sanru. Black Dog, so another story, filling in things with some background information. And we get into the very end of the book here with a Johnny Silverhand song. We've got various charts and tables, character sheets, which are fairly complex, I have to say. That is a lot of text on a page, the back of it, and then page 3 with your cybernetics. Although I do like the skeletal layout, it does match up quite closely with what's in the game, or the computer game. And then we'll get an index at the end, and an advert for some miniatures. So that is Cyberpunk Red. It's a very nice update to the rules. Again, like Cyberpunk version 3, I think the artwork lets it down a bit. It's obvious that the artists from the computer game have donated some of the art that you get in art books for various computer games. If you go out and look for Witcher art book, you'll find lots of lovely concept art. But that's what it looks like has been put in here. Apart from that, there's not too much. I know they didn't want to really go back to the old style of art and have these lovely, beautiful paintings against some fairly dodgy sketches, but it would have been nice to have known with a glance what people were talking about, what the vehicles are like, what the weapons are like, what various characters are like. An image tells them 1,000 words, and a game can really help you out by providing that. But I have whittled on for absolutely ages, so thank you very, very much for watching. Please like, subscribe and comment below, as it all does me massive favours with the YouTube algorithm. But most of all, you look after yourselves, and I'll catch you later. Bye now.